naturally, obviously, I've known you for several years now. I got to meet you over at CCA. You were still running Talk Baseball at the time, right? I know you're doing all like your
Yeah,
hitting stuff.
more so hitting stuff. I always dabbled in the recruiting world, but it just became more full time
Yeah.
the last, 6, 7 years. Gosh, how many years ago was that?
I mean, I left there in like 2018, so it's been at least that long
Dang.
since I've seen you over there. I mean, it was probably really like when you were there, it was Cater set up with the Alpha Project, so that was like 2015, 2016.
Crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Almost 10 years now.
Wow. When we were all scrubs 10 years ago. My buddy got a head
That's
job.
crazy.
My buddy told me that he got a head job at a D1. He said, "Thanks for all your support the last 10 years when we were scrubs back then." So if he could say it, I could say it.
I know what you mean. Well, kind of give everybody a little, background, talk baseball, what you guys are working on and excited about right now.
So obviously in my family we've had a lot of baseball players. I think we've had almost 20 Division 1 and professional players in my family. So a long time ago I started helping out my older kids, like helping out older kids with playing like that I'd see at Monterey High or whatever local kids I worked with. Um, so like I said, about 7, 8 years ago, it became a thought of like, wow, this could really become a business, especially the way things are going, because kids couldn't have agents or advisors, and everybody was looking for that. And then finally, it was able to happen. And the times have been a little weird right now with the portal and all that stuff, but they're still grabbing some high school guys out there. But I understand coaches that aren't. I mean, these coaches are such under pressure now that it's like if you're the head coach at a Division 1, do you want to put your hands in a 17-year-old or a 20-year-old with some experience? It's pretty basic.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just having that conversation with a mom of like a 14-year-old the other day and telling
Yeah,
them about that. Obviously I think it was just for one person, but that court ruling of the JUCO kid who's getting 4 years of NCAA
yeah.
eligibility after that. It's like, what's that going to look like in 2, 3, 4 years for all these guys in high school now? Like it's going to push all that back even more.
Well, I mean, it's just going to really push kids to junior college, which I think is where a lot of kids should be anyway. You really have to be good. I mean, the top end guys are getting drafted, and the ones that aren't, some of them aren't even ready as freshmen. The bubble type draft guys. I have a nephew that was number 5 prospect with the Padres. Um, and he's as good as you get for a high school hitter. Experience, played on all the top travel teams. Took him until his junior year to really get going. I mean, and that dude's as ready as it could come. But a lot of kids look down on junior college. Me personally, I went to one of the top junior colleges in the world, and I think we ended up having like 14 guys drafted, and every guy was Division 1. But guys think they're above that, and they'd rather just go sit for 2 or 3 years. It makes no
Yeah.
sense. At junior college, you can get 400 or 500 at bats with the fall.
Yeah, yeah, they practice crazy. Like we had a lot of people might know Cali County Community College. They've
Mhm.
been, one of the top JUCOs for many years, and that's where I went to high school. And even
Sure.
then, like outside of them, like yeah, okay, I'm in the hometown of this junior college, and these guys, just listen to what their schedule was like. I mean, I don't want to get into like the rules regulations. I don't know what that's really like at the JUCO versus the NCAA level on that side. But I mean, it seemed like these guys were like 5, 6 hours a day every day throughout the fall playing like 27 innings games like multiple days a week, just like crazy amount of playing time. So you saying getting 500 at bats in the fall, like that seems easy.
I know it's funny though that you say that out. Kind of the reason I got into what I do as an advisor and help kids get scholarships. My junior college coach was so connected um, with all the Division 1s. I mean, our first day of practice, we had like 300 head coaches at our practice just to run 40s or whatever we were running back then. I don't think we were doing 60s. which make no sense, right? 60s, but um, so he used to get guys scholarships on other teams. But I was thinking about what you said about practice time. We used to practice at like 5 in the morning. We'd have weights and then swimming. Like it's like weights Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, swimming Tuesday, Thursday, and then quadruple headers on the weekends. Like, and we,
Yeah.
we used to play like 65 games, and then we'd have practice after school, and we'd practice 4 or 5 hours. So I mean, we'd be 7, 8 hours a day baseball, and this guy used to complain it wasn't enough time. And yeah, what you're saying about the junior college, yeah, it's way more time than Division 1 practice time, but it's still way less than what we were afforded. So this guy would go crazy now. He'd be like, "This isn't enough time, 4 or 5 hours a day." But he was his name is Barry Woodhead. He was kind of like a Bill Walsh coaching tree. All my buddies are still in scouting. Um, Coaching, have academies. They're all from this tree, the Woodhead tree, and it's kind of the reason we're all still in it. It's pretty cool. So long. I know I gave you the long-winded response, but my job as an advisor is to kind of be the tour guide on all the confusion that there is today. I mean, I'm a baseball guy, and I don't know if you have kids yet, Kyle, but like it's overwhelming to us baseball guys. Like, what would you even pick to do with your kids? It's like, and these guys are getting emails, and they think they're getting emails from head coaches. They're just get your email from a blockchain, like it's, and they think, oh, I got an invite here. It's just camp money. So the pretty cool thing about what I've built over the years is that I can call a coach and be like, "Hey, do you really looking for players, or is this just for camp?" And I get it; they have to make their money just like we do. But I'm not going to send my players to some school that's already not even needing players. So, and when I first started, I used to tell coaches, I'd be like, "Hey, do you like this player?" Now I've gotten to the point I've been so blessed with really good players. We're almost doing 100 scholarships a year to where I just tell the coaches this kid's coming and they trust me because like I said, we've just been really blessed with the relationship and time that we've put in with these coaches. I work with big leaguers kids and they're like, why would you need to work? Why would a big leaguer need? Well, they're not in that circle. And it's like, you know how it is. If you're not in our circle, I don't have time for people. I have a life, a family. So these coaches really go to us. I started working with Trotsky about 12 years ago. And that's kind of where I got all my connections, just being on the field with these guys for 2 and 3 days, 12-hour 15-hour days, building that camaraderie. So it's just, I mean, it's like any job in the world, man. I'm not doing anything special besides I could talk a little bit, and it's our connections, and that's every job in the world. So we're still getting guys out there. It's a little harder now, but guys got to remember there's the Division 2, 3 NAIA level JUCO, and if you're good, you're going to get drafted anyway, especially with all the analytics going on today. So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I played D3 NAIA ball, and we had guys on my team that were getting drafted. Not like a ton of guys. Obviously,
sure,
your high school and D1 is where the bulk of that's coming from, but guys are
sure,
still getting looks out there. And even the 4 year I was at, I was fortunate they had a JV team. I walked on in a D3 in Iowa, and I'm, basically our ace pitcher on the JV team, and we're playing all these junior college teams, and we were playing DMAC, who their pretty much
yeah,
entire starting roster was going D1 the next year. So like,
yeah,
it's not like we weren't playing against, top guys. And even the NAI was at, I mean, my last year there, we had three of our teams in the conference were ranked top 25 in the country. So it's like, guys are going to get looks and you're going to get playing time when you go to these places, especially like even in Kansas, it was packed. Like they were trying to get all these Texas guys on this team. Like we had a ton of Texas guys, ton of Cali guys, Nevada, all these places because those are some of the top states for baseball. But all the schools in those states are filled up with all the best guys already. So it's like you got to look at other options, and there's still great baseball to be had all across the country.
sure, no, for sure. It's definitely going to make junior college a lot better. That's for sure. I've heard stories of 80 guys out in the fall, and I'm the JC I went to. We had 120 first day, so it's like
Wow.
these kids that are really good in their small towns, they get to junior college and they're like, I even have bounce back guys that go to junior college and they don't even start. It's going to make baseball. All these guys aren't going to be hoarding really good players on the bench anymore. Which I get it. You got to do what you got to do in recruiting, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think more places. I don't know if you've heard of them. There's a place up here in kind of North Dallas area called TCS Postgrad. I think it's just like a
Sure.
1 year program that
Yeah.
guys come in after high school, and it's like I don't know if it's between JUCO or like how that works, but it seems like they're playing a lot of other JUCO kind of
Sure.
smaller colleges in the area. So I think a lot of other things like that could start popping up as well.
I have a lot of clients that are doing we're kind of like hiding them for a year like that, or sending them to JUCO and they're redshirting, maybe they're injured or something, gray shirting, just until everything calms down because it's evolving every year, like what's going on. I think there's some really good things and some really bad things. That But like you said, there's guys 25 years old playing.
Mm,
How do you even afford to be in college for 7, 8 years?
yeah.
And then they're talking about you can go to junior college now for 2 years and then still possibly have your 4 years eligibility. It's like if you're not a pro prospect in an international company or country, and by the time you're 14, 15, 16, you're not a pro. And these guys are over here playing JUCO at 23 years old. So I don't know. I think it's somewhere in between maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, upcoming few years, see how that landscape shakes out and what guys end up doing. One of the things, I definitely want to talk kind of about, the recruiting side of things and kind of what you do for guys. And I'll definitely share some, as like some B-roll clips into this of some of the like testimonials and different things that you would share with me and like how your guys are crushing it
Sure.
over there. But like you're talking about, I see this one a lot, especially in a lot of these Facebook groups that I'm in, where parents are coming, oh, we got invited to this or this camp, is this good? Is this spam? Like, basically, what would you say are like, if that's one, like, what are the top like two or three kind of like, maybe call it red flags, but really, I would say it's like, kind of those misunderstood, kind of maybe warning signs or things that players are mistaking as like college interest or things like that.
Sure. I'm a fan of the Perfect Game, that company, as far as like they bring in a lot of schools to their events, and the kids, you got to go with what the kids like. They like all that ranking stuff. It's that stuff's not really important to me, but to the kids it is, and it's kind of fun for them. And I would say I always tell kids, I always have kids that end up hiring us to kind of make a soft list of like 20 schools, maybe like, or 21 schools, whatever you want to call it, seven reaches, seven right nows, and seven fallbacks. Kind of like if you don't get better, if you get really good, that type of thing. But in today's landscape, it's like, man, you got to kind of go where you want it. So we kind of just used our connections that we had, like I talked about Trotsky, like building all these connections with players. I'm fortunate. They call me for players now. I got an Ivy League school texting me the other night at midnight. Hey, need a shortstop. Shortstop might be leaving us. Like, it's just like I said, that's the connect. You're paying for our connections with the schools, and then you brought up a good point. Like, we kind of steer you away from these camps that are like, okay, I I'm not going to throw any big schools under the bus, but there's a couple SEC and Pac-12 at the time camps I went to, and it said, "Yeah, these coaches are going to be there." And then you get there, and it's like, I don't even know the coach that's there because he's like the fifth assistant on the team, and
Mm,
that guy really has no pull in recruiting. So these are the type of things that you kind of need to research as far as like who's okay. This school's going to be there, but who's going to be there? Um,
yeah.
for me, it's not a problem because if I'm not at the event with my player, I try and be, but you can only be in so many places at one time. But I call ahead and make sure that those coaches are watching because I'm sure you've been to some showcases and they're just like us. They're goofing around on the phone and not really paying attention. They get kind of lazy and they end up just calling us for players because they're lazy. A lot of them, not all of them, but like some of the the younger guys at camps, they're just kind of goofing around and they're not taking things serious because they haven't put in their dues yet. But um, and make sure you're going to events with multiple schools, because what if you go to one school and they're not even looking for that player? It's just a camp. That this is how some of the coaches make money, and they have to make money. Some of the assistant coaches, so they make it on camp. So we try and send ones that aren't really like cattle calls, like 300 kids with 10 schools. Like it's got to be more, unless that school is really in your like top five, then show your face there a lot. It's like anything, build the relationship. It's kind of like Nate Trotsky used to say, it's kind of like marriage, right? You don't just go on one date. So if these guys can see you over and over, and you can't go do that all over the country, because then you're fighting for more than your scholarship's ever going to be. Your family's going to spend 100,000 on recruiting. So I tell them, just pay me, and you don't have to pay them, but you don't have to do all this stuff, really. And another camp I'm a big fan of is Stanford camp. I kind of work that every year with Dean Stotts over at Stanford. Great camp. There's like 30 schools, all different levels. It's, I think a 4 day camp, 4 or 5 day camp. I've been doing that for the last 10 years. It's really instructional. Um, I, so does that answer your question as far as showcases? I just say run it by me and let's look at it and say yes or no, because these guys will travel all summer.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this is something I've seen. I'm kind of, transitioning a little bit here, thinking of some different players I've talked to who kind of go on that like showcase circuit. But, and to me that it, at some point it's like, okay, you know your numbers. You're not going to keep like increasing your all your metrics like the
Sure.
next camp you go to, like how many, do you need to go to? But I've seen guys who are just get stuck on that showcase circuit because that's what they think they need to do, and they're blowing their arms out and they're not able to pitch for high school season or like for their summer ball or whatever, because they're just trying to blow it out at these showcases. So
It's
like
so
for
funny.
you, I mean,
Yeah.
what's like the bare minimum you think guys need to be at before even not even getting on like a showcase circuit, just hey, before you even go to a circuit or a showcase, this is where you got to be at.
So you made such a great point to like think about. I don't even know if you realize what you said, but how can you get your numbers get better if you're always on the circuit? You're just on a showcase circuit all summer. You're not even training. What do you think the big leagues is made up of Latin players? Is it about 30-40%? They don't play
Yeah.
travel ball and go to showcases. They train. I,
Yeah, I looked at the numbers like I think it was sometime last year, but I think it was at least 40 to close to 50% of the league and like maybe 22 or 23 was international guys.
Yeah, they're not doing travel ball and showcases. I mean, that's the next thing we will probably end up talking about a little bit.
Yeah.
The travel ball circus right now that's out there. So to answer your question, I recommend I first of all, these kids start doing showcases too late. They start them in their junior and senior year, junior going into their senior year or whatever. Um, we used to put middle school kids in showcases, and the reason why, realistically, yeah, some of them are going to get recruited, but the reason why is talk about this with my buddy all the time. It's just getting used to the big stage. You don't want to be used to it at 16, 17. You got to drag your, like, if you're working baseball, drag your kids to that stuff and get at bats off guys when you're sixth grade, seventh grade, start getting used to the process. I'm talking about maybe two or three the whole summer, if that. Because you still got to travel ball, you still got to train, you still got to have a life. A lot of these kids are just baseball, 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 and I want kids to play other sports and be athletes and have fun and not get burnt out. And like you said, the arm situation. It's like these kids are pitching 1 day rest, couple innings here, couple innings there, or even more.
Yeah, so I see this as kind of like two levels. You've got your like seventh, eighth grade guys, and then your underclassmen. By the time obviously like junior, senior, I feel like that's kind of a little different conversation. But like for those seventh, eighth grade guys, like what is there obviously, you don't want to go out and be one of the bottom tier guys at a showcase, but what would you say is kind of some metrics or kind of standards for some of those middle school guys before it's like, okay, you're not good enough yet to really be, what are you going to go out and showcase?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've seen those kids out there that like barely even throw the ball. I'm like, why? What are the parents? Is it just like at that point though, it's their personal life. It could just be like a babysitting service for the day. But I'm like, why are these kids paying 500, 1,000, and there are no metrics? They could barely play catch. They're almost using a showcase as like a practice. Metric wise, I mean, everybody's going to bloom differently. The big 12-year-old usually has a setback for a couple of years till he gets good get again. I had a family member that he was the best player, got hurt, had to become the best player again after he was 12, and eventually got there in high school. But there's so many, roller coasters of like, I mean, I used to hang out with a group of guys. Two of them ended up playing in the big leagues. I didn't think they were any better than any of us, to be honest with you. It's just right place, right time, focus, um, what kind of choices you want to make, the stuff. I mean, there's so many things of like, those are the more important tangibles than like metrics right now at 10 years old. Yeah, it's nice if a guy's throwing 80 at 12, but those are probably guys too that are, you probably know more about this stuff than I do, but the guys that throw 80 at 12, what are they, the guys that kind of burn out earlier or have more arm problems? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, the tricky part is, and I've gotten messages recently, it was like, hey, my kid throws really hard, but he's like 12, 13, and he's had, little league elbow like the past couple
Yeah,
years. And
yeah,
it's just, whether that's a growth plate thing or a lot of guys just get so caught up in their lessons and their pitching work and
sure.
this is the thing I hate, especially at the middle school underclassmen level with travel ball. So, okay, you guys get one, maybe two practices a week, and then you're playing 4 to 6 games in 2 days. Like, sure, like we mentioned, like what JUCO, some JUCOs out there do for like their fall schedule, but at pretty much no level of above high school baseball are you playing 4 to 6 games in 2 days and only practicing twice a week. Like you practice 4 to 5, maybe 6 times a week for a month or two before the season starts, then you're playing 3 to 4 games a week over, multiple days of the week, and you're still training in between that. So it's like you're just blowing kids up who physically are not fit for the task of pitching, fit for the task of playing that much baseball. And we're breaking their bodies down, but we think it's okay because it's a 5 ounce ball. It's just their arm, or it's just baseball when they don't understand it's an actual movement pattern that is being trained hundreds and hundreds of times over a week frame. So, we chalk it up to, oh, they're just young, they'll hit puberty later, this and that. But I mean, I've got kids, who I got this seventh grade kid who just put on like 10 pounds over the past like 3 months just from taking his nutrition seriously and working out more.
Yeah.
So like it's very doable, but there's a lot of misconceptions about, oh, it's too young to lift weights, or we'll do light weights and bands, or we're just going to do our pitching and our long toss and this and that. And it's like the body is what's responsible for this stuff. So you're not taking care of your body at the younger ages. There's guys who are, and they're going to at some point leave you in the dust, even though if you're a hard throwing guy now, like, something's going to give at some point.
You mean that 10 pounds he put on and took a little break? Is it less important than some clown travel tournament out in Idaho, like that nobody's ever going to remember? It's nobody even remembers. I had a kid I worked with. He didn't give up a hit in his 9 and 10 years, like in a whole league season, even into All Stars. He never even pitched in high school. I mean, he's a Division I outfielder, but it's just crazy how as parents or trainers or coaches we get so caught up. I mean, I was guilty of it when I was younger too. I was a little bit of a clown, as far as doing all that stuff. But now stepping back, it's like nobody even cares or remembers that stuff. And piggyback off one of your points, you were saying about these kids throwing. These 30-year-old men in the big leagues, they throw once a week, and these
Yeah.
kids are playing multiple positions, multiple sport. Maybe they're quarterbacks on their football team. It's just never a break. I
No,
don't,
and
I,
that it's crazy. Like this dad of the kid that I mentioned gained this weight really quick. He's like, oh, we had, we played on Saturday, 2 games in the morning, and then had, 8 a.m. the next day, and we had like half the kids are out playing like spring football in the afternoon on Saturday, and then they're coming out and they had a shit game on Sunday and got blown out by the team that they just beat the day before. So it's like this happens all the time, and expect whether it's baseball or basketball or they're playing on another travel team, like it's
mhm.
just crazy that they don't, because they're young. I don't know if they just give them the same credit. They think they'll be fine, but
No, it's crazy. It's there's got to be a balance, but even I'm more on the hitting side of things, where I think you're more on the pitching. But even in my hitters, I'm like, all they do is hit. They don't do mental training. They don't do arm care. They don't have an infield guy. And I'm like, what the? That's like you're in the batter's box. I think 2 or 3 minutes during a game,
mm,
and the rest of the 3 hours you're like in your head and mental
yeah,
game, all that stuff, and nobody even works on it. And nobody in the world will tell you baseball is not 70 to 90% mental. And but then you ask them how much of your mental do you work on? That's like being a farmer and being like, oh, I didn't water. We didn't need water. Like
yeah,
it's kind of a pretty big component of what you're trying to do, but everybody just wants to hit and train on hitting, and nobody can hit anyway because everybody's a 250 hitter. And it's like, how do you separate
yeah,
and get those 1 or 2 more hits every week? That's the difference between a three. You can't tell a 250 hitter to the eye. It's kind of been one of my pet peeves. It's like, how do you get the extra 2 to 3 hits a week? That's all it is. And that's mental,
yeah.
I think. I think that's more mental than physical.
Yeah, and definitely, our guy Nate, I mean, he's huge on that middle game stuff. I'm glad you mentioned that point, just like how much time's actually spent, because I picked this one up from him several years ago. And it's like an entire game, let's say it's a 2-hour baseball game, like how
Yeah.
long is the ball actually in play, like in flight?
Yeah.
And it's
That's
like
great.
maybe 10 minutes out of a 2-hour game or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
that's, 90% of the game is not actually, I don't want to say not being played. Like you're still out on the field and the game's going on, but you're in your head and you're thinking about things. And that's why baseball is so hard, because there's so that even though now, especially with the pitch clock stuff, it's 15, 20 seconds in between pitches. And this is, for me, like you said, I mostly try to focus on the pitching side, but most of the guys I'm working with are, seventh to like 10th grade. So they're playing multiple positions. So we'll dive into the
Sure.
hitting stuff. But the thing that I see, especially, guys not knowing how to have a mental process and routine, but their practice routines, it's like swing, 2 seconds later, swing, 2 seconds later, swing,
Sure.
and they're just getting as many reps as they can with that. But then they go into a game and it seems like an eternity in between pitches, and they're not, to me, that's not training game situation type speed. So learning how to just practice more like you play, I mean, it goes a long way. I don't know what you kind of work on with some of your guys on
I
when it comes to the hitting on that.
I think you keep triggering good stuff for me. I think that um even training, I sometimes I go back and forth on this all the time, but in training, I think like massive amount of fast reps doesn't even teach you anything because you're only going to see 2 or 3 pitches in a game that you like. And so it's like you could have 10 bad swings in a row. It means nothing to you because you have no value in those swings. So it's like, I want guys to slow down. I make guys tee the ball up themselves. So they're really like valuing each. I always say value the 3 pitches you might see all day, and just training like rapid fire stuff. Yeah, it has some good good stuff for like hand-eye coordination and twitch and all that. But if that's all you're doing training wise, like really slow down and start valuing things more and do less. I mean, you don't if you're a good hitter. I have guys do an old school pie. Remember those where you make like 40% of your time like is
Yeah.
spent here, homework, school, sleeping, whatever, eating. But I have them do that, and I'm saying, why do you have to hit for 3 hours when you could hit for 20 minutes and be more efficient? And then you have time to go work on your mental, go more time to work on stuff like that. Pro hitters, a lot of them, their routine is like a bucket, maybe, or even less sometimes. You don't need 300 swings for 3 pitches. You just need to be more focused. for when those pitches are yours. And then that's another debate. Or I saw a really good thing on hitting. It's like a lot of guys wait for their pitch, or do they start thinking about how is this guy going to pitch me, and how do I handle him, instead of like, what do I always like? Maybe it's like, okay, I know the scouting report on this guy. Maybe I'm going to start being able to hit his pitches. So I go. There's a lot of things I'm sure in philosophy wise you've gone back and forth with. Those are kind of two I always play with: the rapid fire and then philosophy on hitting. As far as like, I hear all these guys saying, "Oh, you got to wait for your pitch." Well, you might never get your pitch.
Mhm.
So it's like, are you just going to stand in the box all day? I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it all.
Yeah, I mean the hitting piece. I mean any one of these pieces we could dive deep into for
Yeah,
hours, I'm sure. But
yeah,
you know,
sure.
with the hitting side, I'm imagining a player listening to this or a parent listening to this and hearing, you're only going through a bucket's worth. But it's like, but I could be working on all this other stuff. Or every coach, out there says I need to work hard or take 100 swings a day. Steph Curry takes, 500 free throws a day. I should be taking, at least 100 swings a day. This and that, like. What do you tell guys who come to you with that kind of mentality?
Well, for Steph Curry, that's probably an hour out of his day. You got to remember those guys are only playing their sport that they're getting paid for. Our kids are going to school. They're going to. You don't have it becomes a time issue more so than a philosophy. I mean, you have to go to school. You have to eat. You have to sleep. I want you to have a social life. I want you to be a kid. Um, so let's just say you dedicate 3 hours a day to baseball. I'm just saying that 2.5 hours don't need to be of hitting. So you kind of just have to make your own pie. But
Yep, totally get
you
it.
you would be surprised that some of the pies I get are just all hitting. Some guys don't even weren't even working out 5 years ago. Now at least all these kids do work out
Yeah.
and and train, and I don't know. Um, I think what did you want to talk about the travel ball a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, what comes to the top of mind for
Oh,
you
oh,
with the
I should
travel
probably.
ball?
Let me answer your question first. I think because you're kind of getting out early about the camps as far as getting their numbers and stuff, and like telling them
Mm,
if they're good enough. If not, um, I feel like I don't turn clients away because there's a level. If you want to play college baseball after high school, there is a home for everybody somewhere at some point. So I would never tell a player that, but I just tell them, hey, you're right now you're maybe a D2 guy. If you get better, um, maybe you're a D1 guy. But then you know how that goes too. Some of the D2s are better than the D1
mm,
programs on a good day. And
yep.
some of the D3s will give you a run for your money and the NAI. So I just think there's a home for everybody. Um, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, or we could move on to the travel ball scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. It's obviously a case by case basis. One thing I'm curious about, especially outside of some of the metrics naturally, there's, they're testing 60s, your exit velo, your throwing velocity, from, pop times from each position, right? So,
Mhm.
there's obviously going to be certain metrics that stands out, but is there, whether you want to call it the intangibles or the six tool, like what are some other things that help players stand out to coaches when they're going to these showcases and events if they're not like the top tier metrics guy?
Let me okay, I'm gonna say something funny here. The top two metrics, you said them right off the bat, and everybody says them is exit speed and 60s. Nobody runs 60 in baseball. You never run
Yeah.
60,
No,
180
I'm
feet in
always testing
baseball.
guys 10, 20,
It's
40 yard dash times.
Yes, because I
Like,
want to see the output. So that's the number one tool they want, and then they want the exit velo, which I was a big fan of 5 years ago. And guys used to come to me to get more exit velo because I think it just kind of ran in the family. We have some big high velo guys that even, anyways. But the point is, the exit velo, your best swing is not your hardest swing, and they want the exit
mm,
velo. And the
yeah.
best swings are like 80 to 90% controlled swings. So these two tools we're chasing all summer at the showcase circuit don't even apply in baseball. I mean, yeah, you got to have some exit speed, some bat speed, and stuff like that. But these guys are just getting up there, swinging as hard as they can, over out of control, rolling over, no balance. It's like, what are we
Off a
doing?
tee in a cage, like
Yeah, it's like I always say, it's like set up there like room service. I saw a really good hitting thing. Like, if you can't be good 80 to 90% off the time off a tee when it's actual room service, what are you gonna do when it's you got to go hunt? It's and the travel ball thing I'm getting at. I'm just so fed up with guys saying they teach development,
mm,
and they don't.
all
They
over the
just
place.
it's I know of like three organizations out of the 100 that I've worked with that really are about that, where they'll sacrifice a tournament or something to work on things, and they're working all summer and training. But most of them are just on Game Changer, hoping they win the trophy. These owners and guys that run these travels, yeah, you got to do it because your neighbor's doing it. But at the end of the day, like 90% of it's garbage. I don't know
And
how
is your neighbor even your real competition? Like, sure, maybe for that team, but like trying to
yeah,
nationally speaking, I mean, and then you're talking about I get messages from guys, and some of the videos I get from them aren't. I'm not like, okay, you're probably not ready for college baseball here, but I'll get message from guys from like Australia, Africa, like other
sure,
countries say, hey, I want to play college baseball over here. Can you help me? And I'm
sure,
like, personally, I'd have to send you to somebody else. That's not really my jam, but like these
sure.
guys are out there, and it's deeper than just the kids on your travel ball team or your local high school. Like that's super easy to get caught up in because that's who you see. But especially the guys trying to play into college and beyond, like that's not your real competition.
No, so you're basically saying just be put your head down and be on your own program.
Yeah,
I think you're in Texas. I'm in California, so we're in two of the top. Would you say three baseball states in the country?
yeah. I
Um,
mean,
I mean, pretty
West, you
much.
guys, Central, us, and East Florida. I mean, that's
We're
the
gonna make
that's
some
probably the
people
three.
mad. We're gonna make some people mad. I know Florida's big, and Georgia, North Carolina, and but for the most part, and I used to be guilty of this, but I have this group on social media where I can kind of put stuff on where I don't need to call everybody every day, and and, and it's like you don't. I kind of lost my train of thought. So you don't need to compare your career to somebody else's. So in California and Texas, we have this problem a lot. Like, oh, so and so committed, and this guy did that, um, and you compare your life, and
Lee, I'm gonna
everybody's
have to
path.
pause you for a quick second, guys.
Yeah,
We're gonna have
yeah,
to take a quick break, and we'll be
yeah.
right back.
I kind of lost track there for a second, but what I was getting at was I think in California and Texas, like big baseball areas, we kind of are always like a little bit jaded as far as like, oh, this kid, like I get calls from parents, this kid got this scholarship and he's going there and this and that. And I don't know if you deal with that, but that's like the biggest thing I hate. And kids talking about their scholarships and how much they got. And I actually had a kid I knew lose a scholarship because he's bragging like how much his scholarship was worth, and a school,
Mm.
big time school, heard about it, and they just got rid of him. But my point is, what the parents are even worse about this. They're like, John got this from some big school, and they don't even know the whole story that that kid's going for free, or is, I don't know, maybe his mom's dating one of the coaches. Like, just stay out of everybody's business. Like, just put
Yeah.
your head down. One of the I'm pretty good friends with one of the famous quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He was in the Super Bowl. Let's put it that way. And that guy had two offers out of high school. And I tell all my clients, I'm sorry, but you're not that player. And that guy had two offers. So back to again, he was a late bloomer. He wasn't even a late bloomer. He was just kind of overlooked. I mean, the guy was an area code shortstop. He threw 95. Dad's a big leaguer. Uh,
Hmm.
6,000 yards football in high school, 25-point game, 6'2", 230. Like, how do you miss
It's
a guy
all
like that?
around. Yeah.
But I get these little guys that are like, oh, I haven't got anything and this and that. It's like, dude, if just use it as a chip on your shoulder instead of
Yeah.
crying about it and comparing somebody else's business. Like, it's kind of like asking somebody's dad how much they make. It's like, worry about your own house and worry about your own path. Anyways,
Yeah, it's
that's my
funny
rant.
that we won't say his name, but I know who you're talking
Yeah.
about, and I'm working with one of his trainers, like one of his
Hmm.
rehab guys over
Yeah,
here
I know. I heard of that.
where I'm
Yeah.
at. So, but I think for me, when I hear that on guys, you telling those stories, like more guys need to hear those kinds of stories because it helps give them some perspective of like, so many guys just think, oh, because I'm good at this school or whatever, and I sent out like, a couple emails or I went to like a couple showcases, like that
Sure.
should be enough. But there's why there's like the flat ground app for the pitching for guys who are uncommitted, helping pitchers get seen and guys like you
Sure.
doing what you're doing to help guys with this kind of stuff. Like it to me, I made a post about this probably like a month ago and I've talked about it before, but to me, we're talking about how hard it is for these young guys to get in at especially D1 programs. But to me, it's never been easier to play baseball and be good at baseball and to have an opportunity to play at the next level. Like from all the
I
training facilities that are out there, access to coaches like you and me and other trainers, to social media. Getting all it takes is one viral video to get in front of coaches, like all these kinds of things. Us as players, 10, 15 years ago didn't have access to. All the guys before them didn't have access to. So
I
it's just a
liked. I
matter
saw.
of perspective.
Yeah. I saw your post. I think it's the one you're talking about where I hate when guys say like, "Oh, it's only 5% of these guys make it." It's like, dude, if somebody's got to make it. If everybody bought into what their parents told them that or negative stuff like that, we'd have three major sports that had no players, right? Because if
Yeah.
everybody had that philosophy, nobody would show up. Somebody's got to make it, and it's like, who's going to climb to the top? And it's not always the best player. It's the right situation, the right the right opportunity, right place, right time. Are you injury free? Or do you have a girlfriend? Like there's a
Mm,
million different things that have to line up perfectly. It's not always the best player that makes it. It's the one that got through
no.
everything.
Yeah, and I love, I think baseball is like some of the best success stories because, I don't think most younger players realize like it's probably like 3 to 5 years on average that minor leaguers spend in the minor leagues before
Sure.
making it up to the big leagues.
That's
But I was watching, I think it was last year after Brent Rooker's kind of like second breakout year, they had him on
yeah.
the MLB Network and sharing his story. And I think he was SEC Player of the Year in like 2014 or 2016. And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years ago that he broke out in the majors and was just stuck in the minors for so long, blocked by other guys, this and that. And he said he showed up, I think I want to say Mississippi State, could be wrong on where he went there, but he was like, I showed up to fall ball and I was absolutely getting destroyed by these pitchers. I felt like I had no business being on this field with any of these guys. And it goes on to be SEC Player of the Year, and now he's just signed a
So,
multi-year
since
extension with the A's.
yeah, until things slow down for them, right? The game's got to, it's the old saying, but things got to slow down. And I worked with it's pretty sad how it works. I used to be involved with this first rounder. He hit like, first of all, two, he had one Division II offer. He's a first rounder. It's a crazy story. He ran like a 6'1", 6'1", 60",
Wow,
something like that, 6'1", 3" or something like that, just burner.
crazy.
And he went first round. He hit like 150 his first 3 years of the minors, and he gets traded to his hometown team, and he's in the Double-A All-Star game the next year. So it's like sometimes being at the right place or getting another chance, being around the right people. But at the same time, it's sad because if that guy's a 12th rounder, he's not getting 3 years of 150. So it's not always the best players. It's the ones that just keep roughing it out.
Yeah, yeah. That another great reason why people need to understand how much of a grind baseball is, especially the higher up you get and the longer you're trying to play. Well, I mean,
You
definitely, I'm
could,
sure you got stories for days that you could tell on that kind of stuff. But I think the two big things you mentioned with what you're helping guys with is the
yeah,
reputation, relationships. So, like, if I'm a
yeah.
player coming to work with you, Lee, and help me trying to get into play into college, like, what's that process look like, and how is this different from the NSCA's, like all the other different kinds of recruiting
Well,
services that are
I
out
like to
there?
say I'm a kind of like a boutique agency. I only take two clients a month because I want to be in the family's life forever and have a relationship. So I charge a little bit more, but I also only have 25 clients. Yeah, I consult on some team stuff and travel ball teams and help with some high school stuff and kids from other countries. But for the most part, I have about 25 clients a year because I'm in your life. Like I get kids jobs after baseball, I get them jobs in baseball fields. I could send them to Europe, Mexico, Australia. Like there's so many opportunities after baseball, and it's not just like, oh, I get your scholarship and you're done. Some kids take 1 month, some kids take 5 years. It's just you just never know. Just you just really never know how long. And every year it's evolving, right? Like I used to get out guys like within 6 months, every guy. Now it's a little harder, but I mean, you have to be nuts not to get an advisor because they can help you get NIL money. They can, I mean, basically you can get your fees paid for as far as like getting kickbacks as far as jobs and stuff like that. But just to go at it as a high school kid sending emails, these guys are getting emails from SEC transfers. Which one are you going to open up? Speaking of the pie, right? You only have so many hours in a day. It's like look at half the guys you grew up. Most guys just hire their buddies, right? They just hire their buddies, and it's kind of like everybody's so busy that it's the same with players. It's like I'm going to go with some guy that already has a track record. 17. Did you see that interview with Rick Pitino? He just said we're not recruiting high school players this year because they're not going to replace the two guys we just lost.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
crazy that guys didn't think about that. I did not see that one, but I've seen some posts lately where, play like coaches talking about like we're trying to win now. So like I'm always looking for guys that are going to be better than the guys that I have right now, not guys that are
sure.
just going to like fill in the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, there's no time to for development because it's always panic. Everybody has to win. They're those guys in the SEC, man. They're paid to win, not develop. And sure, there's some development. They have great staff, but I mean, are you going to develop yourself to death or lose games or win games?
Yeah, big difference there. So kind of
Yeah.
going back to the stuff that you're talking about naturally, it seems like kind of got like two umbrellas, the talk baseball recruiting side and then like your hitting development type work. Do you kind of like mesh the two? Are you just like really kind of helping the hitters get to
No,
next level or how's that work?
no. I just happen to have both. I mean, sorry, I kind of worded that wrong. I work with all players, but I just came up as more of a hitting guy. So I
Sure.
still do hitting lessons and in my program hitting is free for life if you're in my program. So some kids take advantage of it, but during season guys are so busy and stuff and then I want them to have their weekends off. So I just really started focusing more on the recruiting side of things and going to I mean, if I go to a showcase with you and I'm there pointing out my guys to 40 schools, I mean, that's a little bit better showcase experience than the normal camper, right? Because I mean, it's so hard to stand out at camps unless you're throwing 95 and hitting balls 420 feet. It's like, how do you stand out? I look at these parents sometimes. I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have a kid out here because
Yeah.
it's just nerve wrenching. It's just it's just not even fun. When my when I see families going through it, they're not even enjoying their kid's career because they're just stressed on recruiting. So I kind of take that away from you, and we tend to think we're one of the best companies that like you don't have to worry about. Enjoy your kid's career, and we'll worry about all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like you probably have when guys come on have an evaluation. that they'll start with. What I don't know if you call it like a placement kind of thing or how that works, but just getting a feel of where a guy's at and what they're projected to be at, and then maybe kind of some development type stuff to help them get to where they're trying to get to.
Yeah, and we're pretty blessed because, like I said, we only take two clients. Although I said earlier, we don't turn guys away that aren't Division I guys. I'm more looking for families because I got to deal with the family for 1 to 10 years, So I'm looking for like good family, which is going to say a lot about the player too, right? Usually hard worker. I don't have to be on them as much, stuff like that. If you're coming for an advisor, you're pretty locked in anyway. So I'm pretty good with like if I have like 5 kids that want to work with me and I can only pick two that month, I'm gonna pick a kid that's pretty good, and comes from a good family and gets it and not wants it but needs it. Such a big difference, right? Wanting and needing. Kids are like, "Oh, I want that." I'm like, "Do
Yeah,
you?
we want
You're
a lot of
competing
things.
against you're kid competing against guys that need it. It's a big difference.
Mm,
Saying you want something is so easy to say, but
yeah,
show
yeah,
me.
words are cheap for sure. What are
Yeah,
some
I mean,
signs of like a good family, and not just like for you, but I think as far as, if somebody's a good family for you, like I think they've got a good family set up to support their kid to get to ball,
exactly.
whether, they're on their own. Like what kinds of things are you seeing on the family side, which definitely I don't think is a topic that gets talked about too much.
And like you said, that family leads to another family. That's why I don't even advertise because it's just like I'm working with all these little pockets of good areas and good families and I'm like 95% word of mouth. I don't solicit business or I just kind of let social media and my clients take care of that. What was your question as far as what
Yeah, just
I
like
look
what are
for in a
some signs
family?
of a good family, or like one of the things that I do with, especially like with the prospect project scholarship that I put out, is like, hey, I really would prefer to work with first generation baseball families because there's just so many things that they don't know, obstacles to help them, overcome. But like for you, what are some kind of good family traits
That's
or like good signs that you're
But
seeing?
that's such a good point you just made. Sometimes those ones are good too, though, because they stay out of it. They
Yeah.
just kind of let. I try and get honestly, this is a pretty deep answer for me. I try and get the families that I try not to get families like the type of person I used to be in the baseball world, worried, stressed about things, uh, just letting the kid fail on his own. Those type of families, like now, I'm like, man, I wish I would have let my kids fail a little bit more on their own, let them bend off their back a little bit. They're really good players, but I'm always on their ass. It's like, dude, these Dominican kids get shipped away at 14. They don't have their parents in the stands talking them through every at bat. It's like there's something to be
Mm,
said about failure. So I like a family that kind of like isn't overbearing as far as like what's going on with this, what's going on with this, because you just never, there's no real answer. Like people ask me all the time, how does it work? I'm like, I don't know. It's month to month because NCAA keeps changing, the rules keep changing. So I like a parent that's like supportive, but not like hovering so much. Yeah, I have a relationship with the families and I love that doing my phone calls with them and stuff, but it's like you hired me for a reason and some of the reasons are just for me to tell the kid exactly what you're telling them, but they don't listen to their parents, and that's every parent. That's nothing
yeah.
against the parent. I mean, I always tell this story. It's Tony Gwynn's story because I had somebody pretty close to him. One of his sons told me that he goes, "I didn't listen to my dad about hitting till 27. Your dad's Tony Gwynn." So I'm like, why would they listen to us? And this guy was 27 playing in the big leagues at the time, talking about his dad. He goes, and I'm in the house and he's got like 17 silver sluggers. And they're like, we don't even I didn't listen to my dad about hitting till I was 27. And your dad's Tony Gwynn. So I tell parents all the time, don't get insulted by your kids. They just, or you're going to find out one day that they listen to you, then they don't listen to you. And then they realize later on you were right. But that little gap, you got to find somebody else to kind of be your mannequin, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have that conversation pretty much with every parent that's coming on and training with me. Is like at some point, the kid's just not listening to them. They need another voice telling the exact same stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
I
what?
think parents take it too personal, but it's just every kid is like that. I mean, I have to pay you to tell my kids the same thing, you know?
Yeah,
It's
sure.
just life. It's just life. All right.
So
Well,
it sounds like,
we have a bunch of good topics we could spin off of this, huh?
yeah, no doubt. Well,
I mean, we could,
one thing that kind of comes to mind for me, and you're talking about like month to month, like working with players, sounds like, after like an evaluation and coming on and doing some of the, whether are you kind of guiding them on, hey, go to these kinds of camps or go to these showcases, and you're going to those, like setting some time to
yeah,
go with them?
my, the, the families pay me, but it's also my job to save them money in the long run, which they end up saving more because they don't do all this nonsense. You know what it takes to fly your family to Arizona for a week? It's 3, 4 grand, it's hotels and food. And it's just like, what are you doing? You're just like, just do once again, limited amount of camps to show your face. And then I'll even put on my own little camps where I have 5 or 6 schools look at 5 or 6 of my guys. When I was in Monterey, they'd fly in for the day and fly out. So, I mean, that's like a showcase on steroids, right? Where you got like 5 coaches and five players. Everybody's going to want somebody at that point. But some of these camps I go, there's 300 kids. So it's like, I like Perfect Game. I like the Stanford camp. I like when these schools are doing like 3 schools at once. And like a lot of the schools on the East Coast are, I saw a camp the other day at like Menlo Junior College or something. You remember that school up north? And
Oh
there's
yeah.
like 5 schools going to be there. It's like a little satellite camp. But then once again, which coaches are going to be there, right? So that's my job and the client's job to kind of research if we can. Um, that's why I think Perfect Game does a pretty good job. There's always a lot of like, sometimes there's head coaches, but there's at least somebody there that has a lot of pull.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah, and
you know?
I've worked some, you're probably familiar with them. I was just running Rapsodo for these guys on the
Oh,
pitching
sure.
stuff with showball showcases, and that's one of the things that kind of was their main thing is, hey, we get all the head coaches are attending these camps. We're not getting, backup coaches and all the way down. Like we're getting the head coach of these schools, and then obviously it was like the guys out there, at some of the camps, like there's definitely some good players out there, but it was a lot of more kind of, I would say like the mid-major type schools and like the higher end academic type programs that were going
Sure.
to these showcases versus, the top SEC Power Five programs like this and that. But I mean that's a huge deal breaker. It's like you're not realizing, are you actually going to get access to the head coach or like head assistant coach or head of recruiting or whatever going to those kind of events?
There's a Ivy League camp in Orange County every year that I attend, and they're going to be mad at me forgetting the name of it, but it's put on by the Quakes baseball organization, and there's literally 8 Ivy League head coaches there, and it's I think it's a 3 day camp, and you're really like involved, and they don't take more than like I think 50 kids, so it's a really cool. So stuff like that, just it's like me. You're asking how do I it's just all reputation, all connections. So I'll tell these kids like this is a good camp, this is a good camp. There's some bad camps out there, which you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough to see just how many kids are going out there to that stuff and not ready for it, don't even know what they're getting there, getting into. But it's why we have conversations like this and kind of help enlighten
Yeah,
players on that side of things. And the ones who are willing to, you know, come out and listen to this stuff or not just
sure.
go to the next high level patterns video and learn how to increase their exit velo and launch angle.
Sure. Another thing I was thinking of too is a lot of these advising companies, they don't go anywhere. Like I was just looking today, I'll print my area, and I know it's kind of old school, but sometimes we put so much stuff in our phone we forget. But I'll have if I'm in SoCal that week, I'll print out all the SoCal schedules, like Division 1, 2, 3, and try and hit games all weekend. just kind of show my face. And a lot of these other um, companies, they just send emails for the players. It's like that's what the players do. It's like so I try and go out to. I went to UCLA, USC the other day. I went to Pepperdine, Tulane, all in the same weekend in LA when I was down there. So it's just kind of like I was just thinking more stuff about what separates us as a company. It's just that we care and we call the players and we stay in touch with them and help them out and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, what would you say if, regardless of whether somebody's going to work with you or another kind of agency on the recruiting side, like, are there, what kind of timeline should they be looking at, and what are like the top, like, top thing that they can do outside of obviously their training, making sure that they're a great product to show off, but what can they do on their own to try to help get that recruiting ball going?
well, I tell the families they pay, I do all the work, but the kid has to be proactive. So if I have them, hey, I want you to call this coach, or this coach is going to be giving you a call tonight, we kind of prep them on, especially when it's early, when they've never. It's kind of nerve wracking your first college call. I had a kid. I for this kid's so good. He's like a phenom eighth grader. I'm like, he's just gonna say hi to a coach at a camp during the summertime at the school, and he's all nervous, and I'm like, dude, just this. But I forget because he's so good that they still are kids, and he was nervous about. Here's a kid. He's eighth grade. He's like throwing 90, hitting balls 400 feet. So you got to kind of prep these guys on what to say and when not to talk, and what not to say, what questions to ask. I'll have some of my kids text coaches. I'm like, hey, do you ever ask them about their family like they do you? And they're just so blown away. Like it's for me and you, it's just like common sense, simple, but nobody's taught them that stuff. Ask them about their family, how's their schedule. Don't always make it about you. So that's kind of one of my tricks to the trade.
Yeah, I like it. Well, the
Yeah.
the last thing, kind of bouncing back to one of the things you mentioned earlier, is just a lot like the development on the travel ball side. What what for you is a sign of like true development for, obviously there's the team level and then like the individual level, but what are some signs of a good program that's actually development focused?
Um, Guys, I'm working with this group out of Orange County right now called California Mercenaries, and I kind of paired them up with Trotsky. And these guys aren't even like they are Dominican. The owner of the company, but he's really a basketball player, and he's so like focused, and the kid's super talented, and they like have the best practices I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if he watched YouTube videos. He's friends with all these big leaguers, but maybe they gave him some good practice routines. But first of all, it starts with do they even practice? Because a lot of the travel teams don't even practice; they just meet in tournaments, for tournaments to win trophies. So I like this California Mercenary Trotsky thing down here in LA. They're an up and coming program. There are some like the Cub Scout team, they practice at UCLA, really cool program, laid back, no drama. Like you just need to find like no drama, no where and the other thing I'm sure you've dealt with this is when they bring in the good players for other tournaments and they kind of shine their own guys. That's like huge down here. I don't know if that's a big thing in Texas, but any organization that does that, don't give them your money, right? You play with them all year and you grinding all these tournaments. You know what it's like all summer, and then they call in some guy to throw in the big championship game or something. Like, is it that important? I guess it is, right? So just travel ball teams and I was just being specific off the top of my head. A
Hmm.
travel ball, kind of in my area, you know. But I'm sure I'm sure there's some good ones, but there's those big name ones. They're just competing the top 10 big names for more trophies, pretty much. I could be wrong. Sure, I'm going to get some backlash.
Hey, I mean, that's pretty much what it is, especially that they had the the Houston 1000, I guess, big, I don't know if they want to call it a showcase tournament, but ton of the national teams coming in for that. And, it's mostly like, seemed like the big stuff was like 12, 13, 14U. And I
Sure.
can't even imagine how many, kids are being like, I've heard from, I think it was like the Super NIT that they had down there last year. I was, hearing in some of these Facebook groups, like these big national teams are like paying players to like fly in
Oh
and just
yeah,
like
it's
pitch and
crazy.
stuff. And they're like, it's like 14U baseball. It's not even 18U type stuff.
Nobody will even remember any of it. All they remember is how good you are when you're 20. How good are you when you're 20, right?
Yeah, it's not like
That's
this
kind of,
is what the Cooperstown type
yeah,
tournaments or the Cal Ripken kind of stuff, right? Like the experience type things. Like they're treating this as like it's, this is me getting recruited.
yeah. It's just like a fun little fishing trip where you could hit 20 home runs, you know? And they do a fishing and say it's cool camaraderie stuff, but it's like if you have that type of money, go train. My kids
Yeah.
never did.
Oh, no doubt.
My kids never did the tourism that tournament you're talking about. It
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah, that
make
wasn't a thing.
it's not going to make you better or worse, you know. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean the
know. I
most
don't.
I went to, and it's not even around anymore, but I don't know if you remember Mickey Owens baseball
Yep,
camps
yep,
were
yep.
a big thing back in the day, and I think I went like twice to like a winter week-long camp that they had in Arizona. And I mean I grew up, and I went to a middle school that had a town with one stoplight in it, so it was like no kind of good baseball coaching
So
training
you
around
had
there.
to. Yeah, you had
Yeah.
to. But there's so much information online. I don't know if you remember a closer. He was like 102 guy with the Angels and the Potters. Him and I were actually doing camps for a couple of years. Ernesto Frieri. I don't know if
Okay.
you remember
Uh-huh.
that. He was the closer for the Angels and the Padres.
Been a
I
while.
probably like 10 years ago, maybe. It doesn't matter, but he's all I never got paid till I learned my changeup. And I go, how'd you learn it? He goes, on YouTube. He learned his changeup on YouTube. He's from Colombia, and he played like 10 years in the big leagues, and then he played in Colombia a little bit too, and World Baseball Classic. But literally learned his changeup on YouTube because that's all he had.
Crazy.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't a good pitcher till I learned that pitch. Obviously, yeah, he threw 100, but you know, pro hitters will line up a jet engine eventually, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
velo doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but like, you can't just have one pitch unless
No.
you're
And you probably seen the
Rivera.
the clips of Bonds talking about is I can come in and hit 100 right now off these guys. Like velocity's not everything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I definitely want to. We spent a lot of time talking about a lot of different things today, Lee.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for this. We've been
yeah.
going long here. I appreciate you staying on. Is there, any kind of final thoughts or where can, people check out what you have going on over there?
Yeah, you can. We're Talk Baseball International. You can find us on the website. I do have to thank our sponsors though, because I get mad that we have a management team that hates when I don't thank our sponsors. So can I run through that real quick?
Go right
All
for
right,
it.
so I'm going to go real quick. Stretch Lab, Camwood Bats, Eat Healthy, Arm Care, Valley Velo, B1 Sports, us Talk Baseball International, Nick Cunningham, Speed Trainer, Trotsky Baseball, Allie, and Kyle Pullins.
Hey, there you go. It's
Thanks
quite
for
the
your
list.
support, buddy. Thanks for your support.
I love what you have going on, and definitely after hearing this stuff, it's with the prospect project going on with David. I definitely need to get together with you on that and get him going because we haven't really gone into any of that recruiting stuff. But
Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you need
he's
anything.
definitely ready to get going there. So
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything. Talk soon,
absolutely.
buddy.
All right,
Thank you.
buddy.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.